Let's see, I think everybody's here, all 8 of us, all members are present. We have one guest, Chuck Mueller, and the regular staff, Ronnie Meetings and Young Cow. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve it.
All right,
Second.
A motion to approve it and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The approval of the previous month's minutes. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? I got a couple. Correct me if you don't remember it the way I remember it, but in the under paragraph 5, old business, the third line down, the Longmont Senior Center Advisory Board, I would add is at the policy level. It needs to be, so add the word level, it needs to be advisory in character. Anybody have any problem with that? And then at the top of the next page, needed to accept money from state or federal grants. It would also include organizations such as Friends.
Well, so is Friends is part of the intergovernmental?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, it is, but then you could add comma and organizations such as Friends. No.
City Council approval. Is it needed to accept money from Friends or other organizations? Because it says City Council approval is needed to accept money from state or federal grants, but is it also needed to accept money from Friends and other organizations?
Yes, the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, any organization that wants to contribute money to the senior center has to go through City Council for approval, and it's allocated through your treasurer's or your assessor's office.
Yes.
You say that hesitating. But
Yeah. Just thinking of the process for Friends because I'm trying to think of it last year.
But any donation, whether it's from Friends or any other group, would have to be approved by City Council.
Yes.
So every time Friends wants to give money to here, it has to be approved first by City Council before
That's
they
what I
can do it?
understood.
And I wish Christina was here for that one specifically, but I think it's over a certain dollar amount for our Friends specifically. But I will have to get back to the board on that.
I'll tell you what then, let's just leave it as it is and I'll check into it. And next meeting, because I need to know, or I'd like to know just exactly what that is. I was led to believe that any contribution we get had to be approved by City Council.
That includes goods and services as well as money, correct?
Cash, money.
Not goods or services.
I don't know about goods and
Okay.
services, but that's a good question too.
Yeah, I think we need, okay.
So, because that's the assumption I've been operating under for, God, a couple of years. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
But we'll check it out. I'll check that out. Anyway, just leave the minutes as they are for the time being.
Except for the policy level.
Yeah, policy level, you can leave that as it is. And then on the next page, under item 8, item D, Friends. Now, I think that's going a little further. I probably presented that as being a little further along than it is. So I would say a 5-year strategic plan of the Friends, LCS staff, and LCAB for activities, programs, and services and priorities is being discussed, period. That 150 a year, that's just an example. And then the rest of it is okay.
then sustainability should be E instead of E, right?
Yeah, sustainability should be E. I didn't notice that. And under the following, the last page, C, the second line, let's see, how can you do that? Just say, I just suggested a meeting with Brandy's support staff and resource specialist staff. And that's it. Anybody have any comments, additions, corrections? And we'll follow up on that other item. Okay, someone make a motion for approval? Donnie?
Make a motion.
John, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Old business. Let's see, Cammie is going to be here. When is she going to be here, do we know?
So I reached out, she said that she'd been in discussion with other board members about attending today's meeting. They just in email communicated the date and time, and that's the last I heard. So
Okay.
let her know it started at 10 a.m. so that we can start with her.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll just go ahead then. Transportation, any updates on transportation?
I know that I sent the information if there were any questions on that. I do have a concern, and I also would like this brought up under future agenda items. I've been getting a lot of complaints regarding VIA transportation for the seniors, and that's really what they are, is they're transportation for seniors. And it has to do with people not being able to get rides, people being left at facilities for an inordinate, amount of time. And so I just am wondering if we could maybe invite them to come over and talk to us about what it is that they do. That was it.
All right.
I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a very good
I
idea.
hear it a lot at Village Place.
I have
I
to.
hear it a real lot.
Really?
Yeah, there's a
So
lot
on
to appointments. I've been on like somebody's list as a second backup. If they get close to the appointment and B is not there, they'll call me and I'll give them a ride. But most importantly, getting to a place and then being left there.
Left there. Yeah.
That's the big thing.
No
There's no
kidding.
guarantee once you get a ride there that you're gonna get a ride back.
Right, and they're left
So
there.
people have been left there for a really long amount of time.
Yeah, and
And
the
have had
place is
to
closed.
seek transportation elsewhere to get home.
Right,
That's not
So-
good.
yeah. So I think that it would be nice if they came and talked to us and we could kind of share with them some of our concerns that we're hearing.
I think everybody around the table had some sort of feedback, negative feedback. I mean, that,
Isn't it true that once you get there, you can make a reservation to go,
Yes.
but you can't make a reservation to come back? Is that
You
how
should
it
be able
works?
to do both of them, but it depends on, the way I understand it is, you're not always going to have them come back when you actually need them. Now I'm gonna give you I went to Boulder a couple of weeks ago on VIA, okay? And it was fine because all of us in the bus got there in time for the meeting. However, when it was time to come back, we waited over there for at least an hour before somebody came from Longmont in a VIA van to pick us up.
I didn't know they went to Boulder.
VIA does. VIA.
I didn't know that.
And just to clarify this for everybody, it was for the AAC meeting,
Yes,
huh?
it was.
This was for the group that all the, like myself, the reps, from all the different areas, some can get picked up if you don't want to drive into Boulder, especially Boulder because parking's bad.
Yeah.
They encourage us to group together and get picked up and get driven into the meeting. So these guys, I did it on Zoom, but these guys went and they didn't necessarily have a ride back. And the woman who's on our co-chair with Arlene works for VIA.
Yeah, and
She
she was
usually
there
drives.
calling and calling and calling them to find out where they were at, and finally they came. But we were over there, stuck over there.
Wow.
So that's the kind of thing, to me, it was okay. One of the people with us though was in a wheelchair, okay? So that's not real convenient for them. So it was like, okay, what are you doing about these people that are getting left for 2 or 3 hours at a doctor's appointment or something?
Yeah.
And, yeah, so I think it would be nice if they could tell us what they have to do.
yeah, sounds like a.
And
That's a good idea.
And I don't want to say that the people who are going to this meeting are any more important than anybody who's going to a doctor's appointment or anything like that.
Right, yeah.
I don't want to give that indication at all. But obviously, throughout a cross-section of people who are using VIA, they're not finding it to be satisfactory. So,
I should know this, but I don't, refresh my memory. Is that a contracted service with the city? How does that work? It is?
Well, and they provide, okay, and this is what we kind of need to understand from VIA, is that their reason for being is to provide transportation in Boulder County for seniors. Okay, so we're part of Boulder County, and yes, the city does pay through a contract for them to deliver people to and from medical appointments and things like that. So, yeah, but that is, they're supposed to be delivering, responsible for people in Boulder County. So it would be kind of interesting to know what exactly the concern is.
Yeah, yes.
and here's the thing too, how long ago did we have our meeting at VIA and heard the executive director speak?
Probably about 7-8 months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was all up about how it keeps him up
Great.
at night to know that
Yep.
he can't provide the service that people are used to from VIA, like they can't go to church, he can't bring seniors to the beauty parlor, all that really keeps him up at night. But they've made this improvement of hiring more drivers, and that they were giving me indication 8 or 9 months ago that things were going to change, and they obviously haven't. So I think it would be very important to ask him to come and speak to us.
Well, and somebody else along with him, because he's pretty positive. I think that they don't have enough drivers, and that's part of the problem. Then you end up with vehicles that don't have air conditioning at 100 degrees. I mean, some of this stuff is something's going on that doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know.
Well, they're not living up to their contract.
Well,
Sounds like.
sounds like something's not right.
Yeah,
How
I don't
would
think they'd be able to get what they need. I'm sorry, I'm going out of that.
That's all right. How would I get a hold of the contract? Who handles the contract? Your purchasing office?
You just call VIA.
I think we just
Yeah.
call VIA directly.
Yeah.
Via directly? I think it'd be good to take a look at their contract and see what they're supposed to be doing,
I actually have a copy of that.
I'm sorry?
I actually have a copy of that.
Oh, of course.
Our
Of course you would.
transportation's on.
Okay, okay, so we will remember to put that on our next agenda
Right.
via.
So you want me to pull them into, I can reach out to try to make that contact. You want me to see if we can get them in as early as November?
Yeah, is that okay? Is that all right with everybody? Probably the sooner the better.
If there's
Cold weather
room,
coming
sure.
up.
I think.
Okay, go ahead and do it.
November?
Okay. All right, anything else, Arlene?
That's enough. That was my 5 minutes.
That's all right. Okay, I think we got a little extra time today. Okay, housing.
Housing, I didn't have a big report, but I did want to bring up one thing. I did explain what the agreement is in Longmont with people who are, with developers who are who are building new developments, and the agreement on how much has to be affordable and things like that. That's in there. And then our renovation is finishing up, which is really nice. Construction at
Where is that renovation?
Village on Main?
Yeah,
or
where is that?
Sixth
Village
Main.
Place Apartments. It's diagonally across from the motor vehicle hub,
Okay, 6th
the
and Main.
Boulder County, yeah.
6th and
6th and Main is the back of the building, 6th and Kaufman is the front of the building,
Okay, all right.
okay? And the Hilltop Apartments in Boulder, the construction has been delayed. And I told you about the launch housing group that did a presentation between last meeting and this one on attainable housing. So people who are interested in learning more about attainable housing, they're a group that you might want to contact and keep in touch with. The City of Longmont offers a housing rehabilitation program that provides income qualified assistance for mobile and site-built homes. They offer a variety of housing resources, including ADA modifications, affordable rentals, energy efficient support, and more. And the city also offers a range of human services, including homeless prevention, mental health support, and food assistance, which are basically right here at the senior center. And that's pretty much it.
Do the resource specialists make use of the refer people, for ADA modifications, for the mobile homes and that sort of thing, renovation of mobile homes?
And then say that, I'm sorry, the question again?
Do the resource specialists take advantage of that? Do they refer people to, what did you call it? The
ADA modifications.
ADA modifications.
ADA modification, do they take advantage? Do they refer people to take
It's
advantage?
part of the housing rehabilitation program.
Right, if there's a need there, I mean, again, they assess whatever, in their client meetings, they're able to assess what needs they are, and they're coming usually for something specifically in the scope, then they provide those recommendations or direct for those services outside of the senior center.
Yeah, and Cultivate also does that.
I'm sorry?
Cultivate, if they came and they put bars in my bathroom,
Oh,
But they'll do rents too.
they do almost anything.
oh, really?
They're amazing.
Oh. Oh, all these resources available.
There are a lot,
Yeah.
I've got one question, and I won't mean to put you on the spot, Lonnie, I really don't, but I have a question about, and maybe it's obvious to everybody else, but I can't quite figure it out. Yeah. I read your reports very closely, every month I read your reports. And I guess my question is, who's in charge of housing in the community? It looks like, I don't know, you went through a half a dozen, 10 sources here, and they all seem like they're silos. They're all by their lonesome. I don't know to what extent they coordinate. I don't know if there's anybody in charge, local housing authority. Who's in charge? Is there anybody that's trying to coordinate the overall effort of housing, and particularly housing for seniors in the community?
Okay, as I understand it, the senior center would be considered the first stop, correct? Where they would make an appointment with a resource specialist because they have questions about housing. When they make the appointment, they're given a packet of various places in town. There are applications for all of the Longmont Housing Authority buildings, the properties. There's applications for some of the other properties. There's information on Boulder. I believe there's information on Boulder Housing Partners also, which is an independent group. When they go in and talk to somebody at the senior center, they are given information. They get to fill things out. They get to, people at the resource specialist gets to really ask a lot of questions and narrow down exactly what their needs are. They can also go to the Longmont Housing Authority. However, the way I understand it, you're better off coming here and speaking to the resource specialists, because they can then funnel you out to different places and tell you that our center may be able to help with your first month's rent or your security deposit.
Is there I don't know, I just don't know. Is there an office in the city someplace that's responsible for housing?
Yes.
What's that?
There is the Longmont Housing Authority that strictly handles the housing authority facilities, okay? But in the city, under the Department of Human Services, there is a housing management program underneath there. And Molly O'Donnell is part of that as well. But so they handle all of the different housing in the city. So not just the housing authority, but if you're looking for housing for affordable housing or some of the other places that are available. So yes, there is a housing group in the city.
Now, is she Boulder County or is she Longmont?
He's Longmont.
Okay.
And that's in the Human Services Department, so that's under Christina's bailiwick.
And then the community, there's a community neighborhood, something that also does a lot with that too. So if you were to go down to the offices down there on Kimbark and Third, and you walked in, and over here to this side, and I think it will say community housing or something like that. But yes, there is a whole program for that.
Now, do they make recommendations? Is there a connection between that group and the city council?
Yes, they have to report to the city council on a regular basis, and they do.
Do they make recommendations to a budget?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering, what I'm getting at is does the board want to make a recommendation as far as funding or organization of housing in the community? Because nobody's corrected me. It seems to me like you've got a bunch of separate efforts that's coordinated by people like the resource specialist. So.
I think the thing that would be nice would be to have somebody come from the city and explain to us what the city is doing right now before we were to make some sort of a recommendation. But one of the things that maybe is a little bit confusing is that at one time, the Longmont Housing Authority was run as a nonprofit. Okay, it is now folded into the city, but it still is a separate entity.
Okay.
So you end up with, hearing a couple of different things, but I don't know, that's my thinking, is that maybe it would be nice to hear what it is they have to say and what it is they're doing. And then we can kind of decide, do we want to make a recommendation on something or another or whatever.
It's probably been about a year since we heard from Maui.
Yeah, it's been about a
But
year.
that was the housing authority.
That was just the housing.
You need to hear the whole wide thing, what's going on.
Yeah, I'm thinking the big picture. Art, you
I
want
guess, if you explain that a little bit more to me. They're under the city, but a separate entity, which means what?
So at the time that they were a nonprofit organization, they ran into some problems with HUD, housing, whatever it is. Yeah. Anyway, and the city ended up stepping in so that they could not lose everything, which would be the HUD would come in and just take over everything. Okay, because there were a lot of problems there. So at that point, and if you guys remember back, it's probably about 4 years, you had your manager leaving, you had your finance person leaving, all those people were leaving that nonprofit. Okay, so the city said, okay, we will come in and we will help you. We will help you with your financing, we'll help you with, making sure that we can at least get beyond these problems that you guys have said, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. So the city came in and they did that. Well, in the process of it, they checked with other areas. Fort Collins also does the same thing, and said they've just kind of combined them in with the city, but they still are the separate entity. They are not a city program. Okay, so they're not like recreation. Okay, recreation, directly reports to the city. The housing authority reports to the city council, but separate. It's kind of hard to understand it, but it is. Eventually, I think what they would like to do is have them be able to get out on their own, be a nonprofit again, and be able to function on their own. That's probably going to be years down the road.
So they're not city employees?
They brought the employees over from the housing authority that were still there, and they have brought them into the city, but they're still paid out of the housing authority funds. So it's kind of a strange thing, but the city has at least got them straightened out to where they're beginning to function now, to where the resources that come in, the money that comes in, is paying for the operations.
So if they do the road remodeling, for example, Lonnie was talking about a while ago, they would go to the council and ask for money for.
They're either going to have it, or they can get it from the federal or the state or that kind of thing. And yes, the city usually will put some money into something like that. But they've been planning ahead, because in order to start a major remodel like they did, it's usually about 20 years down the road.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So hopefully they've been saving money, for 20 years. I'm not sure that that was always done under the other nonprofit. But if you guys get a chance, I'm going to continue here, okay? If you guys get a chance to go by 6th and Main and see that, if you remember what it looked like before, it looks so much nicer now. And this morning they were cutting down tree limbs and everything, and it's like they're really fixing that place up nice. But it's going to be 20 years again before they can go in and do anything down there. So, yeah. But the Housing Authority has actually 9 facilities under them. The city has a whole bunch of other places in town. So,
And the housing, in order to do the renovation, they had to get a lot of grants and things like that from a lot of different organizations. It wasn't just the city at all.
yeah,
In fact, the city was only a part
City
of
was
what
not.
they used for
yeah.
financing. They had to go federal, they had to go, what are some of the
Federal and
organizations?
state, and then of course they got some funds, during the COVID type thing, too, that they were able to put over there towards that. And they've done a nice job down there, I think. Yeah.
And I heard so many names, well, not so many, but several names
Yeah.
thrown around as far as the this fund and the that requirement. And when you get funded by those organizations, they have to come in and sign off on it. So it's a heavily, reviewed
Yeah, it's very.
and looked at program.
Would it be to the board's interest to have somebody from the Housing Authority come in and try to
Absolutely.
explain how all that works?
That's what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
But we don't want the housing authority. Who would you suggest?
We want somebody to come from the city that can say, this is what the city does overall, and this is what the housing authority does. So, because the housing authority is only 9 places in the city, there are a lot of other housing facilities that are available. Yeah,
So we would want someone from the city.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And who would that be?
I don't know whether it would be Molly, or whether it would be Carmen, or whether it would be, a combination of
Okay.
who down there,
Yeah.
but they would be able to get somebody.
You want to
Follow up on that?
follow up
Sure.
on that?
I'd be happy to.
Okay. It seems like it's an issue that everybody's interested in. Is this something, just shake your head or raise your hand or something. Are we interested in pursuing this, finding out a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so then a couple of other things so I want to just mention a couple other things. Today, in the newspaper, there's a really nice article in there about Zinnia. That's opening up down by the suites. And that's housing supportive housing for people who are in homeless situations right now. So if you get a chance, read up on it, because it's really a nice facility. Eventually, they'll have an open house on that as well. There also are 2 churches in town that are looking at housing. And this has nothing to do with the housing authority. This is they're going to work. Habitat with Humanity, I think, is working with them. So I mean, things are moving forward as far as housing goes for low-income people in the town. We just need to know more about it than what we do. So I think that all of this would be. And I just want to back up on one thing. On the 12% that the developers need to put, they can also ask for a fee waiver. They can ask for a fee in lieu. So if they're not going to provide 12% housing in their development, they have to pay the city money for that.
Right.
Yes.
Which goes into the Longmont Housing Authority budget.
Goes into the Longmont housing budget.
So they can,
Not
if
the
they
housing
decide they
authority.
don't want to do the affordable housing percentage in their new development, they can pay a fee. The fee goes to Longmont Housing Authority.
No.
Longmont Housing Authority is then able.
Goes to Longmont housing. It doesn't go to the housing authority.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it goes to the Longmont housing.
But they're able to use that money in future projects because they paid to be.
Yeah.
So.
Do many of them do that, do you know?
The last time that I heard anything about it, when they talked to council about it, was that in the past, they were doing a lot of the fee waivers and they were paying rather than putting in the 12%. But it looks like that's starting to turn a little bit now because, of course, your developer is going to want to make money on it. And they're starting to see that they're going to be able to make money on coming up with some 12% of affordable housing. So it's starting to turn a little bit the other way.
Now, does the Housing Authority have anything to do with the tiny homes or the veterans?
No, that's veterans.
Just gonna-
That's Habitat, I think, too, is doing some of that.
BCP, Veterans Community Project.
Yeah. That Veterans Place right there on 12th and Main, yeah, that's one of their projects, but also is Habitat for Humanity is working some of that as well.
12th and Main is,
BCP,
oh, you mean their office?
yeah, their office.
Okay. And one of the tiny homes, which isn't involved with BCP, but one of the tiny home projects is at the heart of Longmont Church. They're getting ready to build maybe 10, 11 tiny homes on their property.
Yeah.
So
For sale.
there's a lot, there's a good amount of building. There's
a lot going on, yeah.
there is.
And I think
Building
it'd be nice to hear it.
catch up on the thing. I think that's an excellent idea. I'll
Art,
check it
did
out.
you have another comment?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
No, I just said there's
Yeah,
so much out there.
just one last question, you don't have to, spend a lot of time on it. What about religious groups, right, are they under
Yes,
this?
the
They are?
churches. There are two churches, Heart of Longmont is one that you said, and then there's the Calvary on 21st and Gay is now giving some property and they're gonna be building.
Is that under the city's umbrella? Okay.
And what I found out is that when I originally started this and I asked the city why they didn't have a shelter, they said it was actually better to utilize the church programs that go on because they pay so much less as a nonprofit. They pay so much less. Their whole budget is just so much smaller than if we actually built and manned and managed and, put people into positions at a shelter. So apparently churches have an agreement with the city or, not an agreement necessarily, but an association with the city that they can offer things like that at a much lower rate.
Okay. All right,
I will check it out for you
okay.
and we'll find out.
And you can coordinate with Ronnie as far as the city office. Right. What else then? And then where am I? Okay, food insecurities.
September was Hunger Action Month, so a lot of the food support groups we've been talking to, we're pretty focused on that. It's really, Art was saying about there's so much going on. We were focusing on food insecurity and the tap to other organizations that do it, it's pretty incredible. A lot of resources out there, you just gotta start digging around for it, but Longmont does a lot for a lot of different groups. As part of the Hunger Action Month, Katie Weiser of Meals on Wheels and Kim DeSilva from Community Food Share reached out to extend their appreciation for our interest in food insecurities and asked about what was going on with the original talk about doing a food table here and what have you. Also got a really nice conversation with Naomi Curlin, who did the presentation here on Longmont Food Rescue, thanking her for the presentation and acknowledging the work that her group does. She's looking forward to working with Ronnie on the idea of reintroducing the food tables here that we used to have before COVID. And they have a specific program about the food, about the refrigerators. And their whole mandate is to have food accessible 24/7. Having a refrigerator here is outside that mandate because we're not open, available 24/7 if we put it inside. So she's actually gone back to the board. I haven't heard back from them to see if they could do it inside here. If that, we basically approve of Ronnie and people here, but first she has to get her board approval to allow that to happen. She's trying. She's really impressed. She's not been here a long time, but she's impressed by what the senior center offers as far as giving access to seniors as a group. So we'll see. But she's really happy to have made her presentation. I went to one of their community food tables. They do it at Collier on a regular basis. It's pretty incredible. Here's Collier Park, nothing going on. All of a sudden they come up in 4 or 5 trucks and cars, set up a bunch of tables, and all of a sudden food starts getting poured onto these tables from Whole Foods and Farmers Market. And they go from 11 to 12 for this distribution. And there's probably about 100 people with families there getting food. And the deal is you get 1 bag of groceries per family, but you go through the line as many times as possible. So we watched my daughter and I were there towards the back of the line, people in the front of the line, big family of people, went through once, came behind us, went through twice, as we were even going through a third time, getting all kinds of, breads and vegetables and whatever. It's just nice to know because all the food is donated so it doesn't get wasted. Hence the name Food Rescue, and they just are adamant about making food available that would otherwise go to waste. I read a statistic about the millions and millions of pounds in this country that goes to waste, so they're rechanneling that. So really, really wonderful. Ann and I went to a breakfast this morning. We got invited to the Hour Center to do coffee with a cause. And why don't you just speak for a minute about what happened this morning?
Oh, they told us, there was we had breakfast, and then there was a meeting, and they went over a lot of what the R Center does, and I'll just read you a few things. Groceries and personal care items, rent and utility assistance, self-sufficiency programs and services, child care. They actually have a school for 6 months to 6 years, child care and school readiness programs, parenting classes. It was mentioned before about housing. R does work with that, but you can't go into R and ask for money, because if you go in and say, I need this month's rent, they'll say, well, what are you going to do about next month's rent? They want you to be self-sufficient, and that's what they work on. Right now, they are having a fund for, guess what? Transportation. Everybody's dilemma. They need another bus to go around to Whole Foods, Safeway, King Supers to get the food.
I wonder,
It's just such a problem.
I wonder if they could contact via, because they have tons of vehicles over there, and if they would have a vehicle that maybe they could sell them that is still in good condition, but it would be used. I wonder if that would be something.
I don't know, I could mention it when I go there again, because that's where I volunteer.
Yeah, might be something
Yeah.
to think about.
It's interesting that there's food available. They just
Yeah.
can't get it from the
You
food
can't
source
get
to the people who need it.
Yeah,
The other issue is getting people in the community to know what's there. Every group we've talked to says, we have the resource to food or whatever, if we can get people here to get it from us.
Yes. And another thing they mentioned is they had to stop one of their food dispensaries one time a week for probably 3 hours because they can't get the food. So they had to stop that, which people were upset, because I know I was there when it all happened then. But they just couldn't get the food.
So was the transportation again a problem?
Yep.
It was the
Yeah,
transportation.
yeah.
Community Food Share has the
That's
food
sad.
down in Brookfield. They just can't get it here.
Yeah, and volunteers don't seem to be a problem with them. They get fabulous volunteers. It takes 250 volunteers a week to run that place, and they seem to get them all. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
They really are.
they need it.
So if you want to donate food, please do. The donation door is on the south side of the building.
Where
Just
is our
ring the
center?
bell.
Where is our center?
Collier.
It's
and
at Collier,
Third and
220 Collier,
Oh, okay.
some more south.
Okay.
Yeah,
On the southeast corner.
south side of the building.
It's kind of innocuous.
Okay.
It is, yeah.
It's by Georgia Boys.
Pardon?
It's by Georgia Boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Johnson, Georgia boys.
That's it.
Okay, okay, all right.
Yes, it's fascinating. What I was saying, there's a lot of resource out there, and we don't know about it until we actually start to focus or start
Yeah.
asking questions. The city's amazing as far as what it makes available to people.
It is.
Ann and I went down there for a tour. We're talking about first introduced food insecurity. And while we were there, there was 50, 60, 80 people who went there to have lunch, which they serve 5 days a week. Breakfast 5 days a week, lunch 7 days a week. Just quietly providing that to a lot of people every week, every day.
And they have a chef, so I mean, it's good food.
Put that in context, the June 24 update to Aging Well, one of the questions in there talks about the economic contribution of seniors in 3 categories to childcare, volunteering, and care of others. Longmont, in Boulder County, Longmont's the highest contribution economically by seniors, $154 million a year
Wow.
in that donated time. It's the highest in the county. Even the city of Boulder doesn't come here, so 25% below what we do. So this is a really caring community, and the city works the same way. It's a really caring group. So it's fascinating to me. Arlene's still working with the community and neighborhood resources. Seems to me that when it's budget time, everybody does their work, but they also spend a lot of time on budgets.
Yeah.
So,
They approved it last night, by the way.
yeah. Were they still short? The 25?
They can't, they have to
I mean,
have it, they
They
have to
weren't
match.
short.
Yeah, but they did approve it last night, so, hey, moving forward.
They found that 25 million. Good for them. Anyway, so we're working with the community neighborhood resource staff to secure the city of Longmont resource maps that show us age, economics, and areas where we can assist seniors. That's, we talked to them before and we're still working on that. We've also agreed to give us some of their surveys, so we decided to go out to the community groups they talk to, that we use their survey as a way of talking to the community. Last but not least, Christine's offered to review the data we've gathered so we can make some kind of a cogent presentation to Harold when the time is right about what we want to move forward on. So she's agreed to help, although she's not here today, she's agreed to help put that together so we can make a quick, good presentation to Harold at appropriate time. So things are moving. Slow and steady. Mostly slow.
Well, that's the way it works. Is the objective, and maybe I'm oversimplifying here, is the objective basically to have a common food point? Like a food hub, what somebody said a while back?
I think it's, at this point, it's a little bigger than that. Part of the, and that's the issue for the group, has been, we know there's an issue, we know there's with food insecurity, what are we gonna ask the city to do? And we're sort of narrowing this down to this, of, are there city facilities we can use, because again, the food's out there. Are there city locations we could use to distribute food to seniors? And that's what maps are gonna help us, where could we possibly do this on the city facility nearby, and begin to coordinate, that's not our job, it's not what the board would do, but to tie resources together, as I said earlier, there's so much out there, they don't talk to each other, so if we can find out where the common thread is, seniors need it, certain areas, how to get food there, where to get food from, that's what I think is gonna be the program to present to Harold. Not sure how clear that's gonna be yet.
Yeah, your ways, no, I understand, it's complicated.
I'm loving the process and the help that I'm getting.
Yeah.
But again, I thought it was this kind of issue. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So getting it to a point where we can go to the Herald and the council and ask for something. That's what's coming, I think, from this maps that we're going to get from the resource people.
And I think the maps are gonna be a huge help, because they're gonna tell us in Ward A, here's your concentration of seniors and, like that, so you can kind of take a look at it. And then, yeah, I think that should be helpful for everything anyway.
That was Arlene's idea, that get the map is great, but let's find the wards, let's find the support of the council. Who's got the seniors and really want to focus on that?
Is there an office in the city similar to what you're talking about for housing, for food?
Yes.
No, that's what this whole process started around, because you asked the 4 basic needs, food's always 1 or 2. And yet, the food, there's food pantries and food support groups that the city talks about. But it didn't appear to be anything the city was addressing. I don't think people think about food as an issue.
Yeah, I don't think I do.
And we have 11% of our population is food insecure in Boulder County.
Yeah.
It's also it's the highest cost of food for a meal is Boulder County in the country.
Wow.
So it's an issue. So I think we need some focus on it for seniors specifically. Because the
I
last
believe
thing
I paid $50 for breakfast yesterday.
just for I know it's not.
I think that's something to be proud of, that we're number 1.
I'm not sure. Yeah. The other issue too, that the impact on the city of food insecurity. I talked about this. I think it's someone who is moderately food insecure, senior is moderately food insecure, presents as someone 14 years older, the problems that face that person. So if I'm 65, food insecure, I'm presenting with physical issues of someone that's 15 years older. That's going to impact the city and cost of services. We're having housing issues now, and 29% of our population has one or more disabilities. That's going to be a hell of an impact next 20 years.
Yes.
So nice to get it. And the city has said that. The city said we're going to have the oldest population next 20 years. It's going to grow by enormously.
Yeah.
But what do we do about food? So,
When is this map hopefully gonna be completed, any idea?
they have it. They're just trying to get it from them. They agreed to provide it when they budget cycle. They should have it to us, we're hoping,
We're hoping,
this month.
And that'll tell us where most of this, where there's a large
yes.
So
percentage
tell
of
us
seniors.
by ward where there are seniors and where there are seniors who are economically disadvantaged.
Yeah, the economic disadvantage is the big one.
And they know where there are food deserts, where there are places where people can't get this, they shop at certain places because they can't go to a market. They know where that is. They have a lot of information available.
Yeah.
But again, like I said earlier, you just gotta ask the right person for the right piece of information that only they have.
Yeah.
Always good at that.
Yeah, she is.
She knocks on the door, they open the door.
Well, I think we also came to a kind of a stop at the last meeting when Christina told us, wait, you're an advisory board. Which, you know, we were,
Yes.
we were going to give food to everybody.
It did shift the focus.
That's a good
Yeah.
focus, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, it's not, you kind of wonder, well, what am I gonna do now? You know?
Uh-huh.
And, but you just have to rethink it, at least that's what I've been doing, is kind of rethink.
Well, at least
You know-
bringing the issue forward, I think, you know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Bringing the issue forward, because
Exactly.
Yeah.
you know, making the people who are in charge of the city aware of, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
This population is out there. Yeah.
One thing that really bugs me, throughout my whole career, it was my pet peeve. These agencies that build little silos, and they won't talk to each other. They won't coordinate with each other. And I don't know why, because they're protective of their territory. I'm not saying that's the case with these folks, it's just been my experience, that's what's happened. So I would think part of our charge would be to kind of reduce those silos, try to increase cooperation, coordination, that sort of thing. Maybe you'll wind up food czar.
Oh, great. Thank you, I think.
I second the motion.
You get a hat, a special hat with the foods on it, what do they look like?
Get a sticker on your
Miranda
car.
hat.
Get a sticker on your magnet on your car.
Everybody here would know who Carmen Miranda was, that's a good thing.
I was just kidding.
I hope so.
All right, are we gonna have a speaker today or not?
Sounds like no at this point.
Well, it looks like we're gonna have an abbreviated meeting then. Let's move on to, anything further on the updates. All right, we'll skip to, new business, board vacancies. Ronnie, can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So just want to kind of update everybody on this whole process, and I had to refresh myself again. I only have to once a year for a short period of time. But what we are looking at on our advisory board is 3 current vacancies. Dave's term is up at the end of this year. Sheila's vacancy from when she left, and then Arcatana's seat is up at the end of this year as well. Yes, term limited. And so we have 3 vacancies, and so just what this process looks like. Right now, anybody could apply to be on our board. That application process is open until October 18th at 5 p.m. So
Until when?
October 18th
Is when it opens?
when it closes.
Closes, what, is it open right now?
It's open now.
Open now.
Yeah, open now until October 18th at 5 p.m.
How long has that been open, do you know? Because I talked to somebody that tried to get in there and said they couldn't get in there yet.
I was notified the 26th.
26th of
Yeah, last Thursday.
September, huh? Okay.
Yeah. And
And
so,
if you don't, haven't luck, you get a hold of Don to the city?
City clerk's office, yep, reach out to Don Quintana.
Right.
Open until October 18th at 5 p.m. From there, I will be able to take a look at applicants, how many applicants there are, and set up interviews at that point. The interview process requires 2 board members, and then myself, and I'll work with Christina to identify times. So within the board, I want you all to be able to identify 2 board members that will be able to participate in the interview process. From there, I will work with those 2 board members to schedule, based off of our availability, schedule space and time here at the senior center for those interviews to take place. From there, the anticipated timeline, once we identify, work with this interview committee to identify what candidates to move forward. The anticipated, and I won't know until it closes, but the anticipated timeline for those interviews to be complete. My mental timeline is before Thanksgiving, because from there, we would be able to report out to the city clerk's office our recommendations. And then they work that into the city council agenda for approval in December. The term would then begin January, let's see, what do I have? Just January 2025. So January 1.
Just 3 years, right?
Yes, for 3 years.
3.
And you want to complete those by Thanksgiving, the recommendation or the?
The recommendations to move forward before Thanksgiving.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So I want you all to be able to talk amongst yourselves to identify who those 2 individuals would be. And that way I know who to reach out to when it's time for that application process closes. And then I can start setting up, reach out to those individuals identified on the board, myself and Christina as well. Look for dates and times that we're all available, and then look at a space, reserving space here at the senior center.
Dave, you're leaving?
So his term is up,
I have to reapply.
but he
Oh, you
has
have
to
to
reapply.
reapply.
So we have to,
Oh.
That's after a year, right? Or is it right away?
for,
Can you reapply right away, or do you have
Yes.
to wait
He
a year?
reapplies
not
now.
being on the
I have to reapply before the 18th.
so, yeah,
Oh, okay.
so he does not have to
It
interview.
was kind of confusing, which
It
made me
is.
a little upset, to tell the
Yeah.
truth, but anyway, I gotta reapply.
You straighten them out.
Right.
You straighten them out, okay?
I will.
But I thought that you had to be off the board for a year completely before you could reapply.
Well, he
No,
has-
not
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
He hasn't been his term limit yet.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well, after the term limit, you can't do anything for a while anyway.
for a year.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
that's
that's the
what I
one
need
for
to
the
know.
year.
But he
Okay.
hasn't gotten a term limit yet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I see, I started with, I filled, whose term did I start? I started filling someone else's unfilled term.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the reason for the confusion. I thought last January, remember I missed the January meeting? And I missed the January meeting. I couldn't vote because I had not been appointed by the city council. Well, Marcia
Oh,
took care of it, and I thought I had been reappointed for 3 years, but that wasn't the case. Apparently, I filled in behind
Janine, right.
Cameron.
So,
That's not what I was told at the time, that's why I kind of got a little upset.
so my understanding is if somebody resigns and somebody steps in, they take over their term, whatever's
Right.
remaining, 1 year, 2 years, or the full 3.
Makes sense.
Unfortunately, with all that miscommunication, Dave was left off that list, and so, but because of that vacancy, he was able to finish Janine's term, which was a year at that point. So now he has to reapply again. So, sorry, Dave, that they had to jump
They
in.
didn't invite me to the bank. Well,
Do we do
I would
the,
rather here's my
I'd rather
experience.
I would, we don't.
Here's my experience. I had Phil come to our community meeting at Village on Main, and he spoke for about 15 minutes. He explained it clearly, but the big thing was it hadn't started yet. This is supposed to be starting like any time
Yeah,
now.
it's supposed to start.
They said September.
they did.
So if he comes to the November meeting, I'm sure the program is gonna be launched by then.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to speak clearly exactly what's going on, maybe give us an update on how it's going when it first starts off and things like that. And so it's not a long presentation. Probably a half an hour would be great with answer, question and answers.
Mhm.
And I would think that, in my opinion, I think that VIA and micro transit might be a good combination to do for our meetings.
Yeah, we could move that to November, and then we could move mental health to December. That's all, it was always kind of arbitrary, so we could have mental health as well as the legislative explanation of the process. So we could do that in December, then we can pick up mental health later after the first of the year. How does that sound?
You still got your legislative updates.
That's what I was saying, we could do the legislative, it's kind of an orientation to the legislative process. That's what she's gonna talk about.
She's gonna talk about, well, hopefully she's gonna talk about what bills are coming up.
Well, what she suggested is that she would not do specifics because she wouldn't know what all the specifics are at that point. Then she'd come again in April and give us an update on what happened with those bills. Now, there's no reason we can't ask her about certain bills,
It's like an introduction.
Yeah, it's kind of like an introduction
Legislative
to the
update, okay.
legislative
I think
process.
that's a good idea, because we don't really know how they work. We've been kind of dipping our toe into it without a real explanation of how things work.
Yeah,
so.
right, exactly. If we do make a recommendation like we did last year, we want to do it in a timely way and the best way that we can, So I thought that, I said, okay, that's fine, you do it that way.
Okay, so can we put mental health till January?
Yeah, I think so.
So I
So-
kind of am concerned about putting VIA and microtransit both at the same time, because they're competing.
I was wondering, I was
And
just gonna ask that question.
Yeah, I
Do
really
you
think we
it-
need to separate those.
Well, okay, somebody said they complement each other, well, that's true too, so. Yeah, we can do that, which is more important? Which is more important?
Microtransit right now, I think, yeah. We need to know what's going on with that.
Everybody agree?
Yes.
Microtransit?
Could we do this? Could we do micro transit as soon as we start the meeting at 10? And tell VIA that we'd like them to be here for 11? What do you think about doing that, or does that start to get a little
That
sticky?
gets a little messy.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a hard time controlling meetings.
I have a recommendation.
Okay.
So keep mental health and substance abuse in November, and pair that with either VIA or micro transit. In December, keep legislative updates, and then whatever one we did not do, micro transit or VIA, schedule one for December. So we're hearing from them back-to-back months.
That seems like a pretty good idea.
Okay.
So microtransit
Yes.
would be my
Can we
suggestion.
can we do VIA first to give microtransit a chance to establish itself and see how it runs?
So VIA in November, and then December will be micro transit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Do we need a motion? No, I don't think we need a motion. Okay. Well, that took a little while. All right. Anything else on that?
December will be micro transit.
Okay. Let me see. I should write that down or I'll forget. Children, you wrote it down.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I don't have to remember. Okay, reports, managers report.
Yeah. Got some fun information for you. So, general updates. Please ignore the location I put in A, that was an accident. Looking at a couple locations, but happy to announce that we are bringing back extended travel in 2025. We've been working with our risk management department in the city to get this up and moving again. So we're happy we're getting that going. So in 2025, we're going to be doing a domestic trip. Ignore that location. We're exploring a few locations to get one approved for risk management first. Once I have that, it'll be posted and notified in our Go catalog coming out here in, when is our Go catalog coming out?
December.
Sorry, December. All my dates are getting mixed up. We're just talking about all those months. So that's 2025, but then in 2026, we're looking at international and domestic trips as well. So we just have to give ourselves more time for that international travel.
Is that out for bid now?
So we do have a company we're working with.
Oh, you didn't go out to bid?
We did,
Or
and we've
did go out to
identified
bid.
the company. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're excited for this one.
I don't know if you want to say, if you don't, that's fine. Do you have any relationship with travel leaders?
We don't.
Okay.
And so, excited to get that going. So again, 2025 will just focus on domestic. 26 will allow us more time to advertise for our international travel as well.
Are you looking at more than one trip in 2025, Ronnie, or?
2025, because of the quick turnaround and advertisement, we're just going to do what we're looking at, just one domestic.
Okay.
But then being able to identify and share out multiple domestic and multiple international in 2026. So, very excited about that.
I think it's great they're coming back.
Yes, it's a lot of work to make that happen again. We do have a new custodian on our team, Jesus Arias. He'll be joining us officially on Monday, and so we're excited to have him. Jesus has been helping in the city of Longmont, helping at different locations, different buildings and departments, and so we have him permanently for us. Fun numbers for you, recreation programs, just want to share this for you. We were pulling some data for our friends, and I just want to be able to share it here in our advisory board meeting. And so we have right here, it's just showing the attendance for recreation programs. Yes, it could be multiple, it could be the same guest for multiple registrations for different programs. But we did, and I'm going to look at specifically for winter, spring, and summer for 2023. We served 9,837 visits. We'll say visits because again, the same guest could attend multiple programs. So we had 9,837 visits, participants, right? And then in 2024, it was a total of 10,169, which between the two is an increase of 332 more. I don't want to say more registrations, 332 more registrations between 20 and 23 for those three seasons, and then into 2024. Comparing that with trips, on the other hand, we had a total of 2,140, and that's not on this data as well. Sorry, I added that in here. 2,140 participants for trips in 2023 for all four seasons. And in 2024, 2,639. So that's 499 more guests or participants served in 2024 versus 2023. Collectively, those numbers are a total of, between our programs and trips, 831 more guests, participants were served in 2024. So almost 1,000 more participants. So again, I like sharing that information. It talks about what we're doing here in our building and at what capacity and how we're busting out the seams and and it continues that conversation of writing about more space and all that good stuff.
I don't think you can answer this, but you don't know how many different individuals that totals to.
I don't, and so the reason why I can't look at it individual specific is because our registration software. And so our registration software, it's hard to pull unduplicated guests. We try to pull that information in that data, and our software is not equipped to do that. We'd have to do a lot of digging and cross-referencing and a lot of time and energy to pull something like that manually versus automatic.
Is that a software? Is there a fix to that software?
We're exploring that because we want to be able to pull that specific data, right, and look at unduplicated versus duplicated. And so it's one of those things that we have to work with RecTrack, again, the software company we utilize and use to see if that capability, if we can add that in. But we've been toying with it for weeks before we were finally told no, our software can't do that. So.
Ronnie,
Yes.
can you issue a card to people who want to use a facility here and have them check that on, on a scanner or some sort, just to see how people, what kind of traffic we're getting, individual traffic that we're getting?
So we've explored different ways of tracking this information, this data. That's one thing that I have brought into discussion since I've been here for almost the past 2 years. And what I'm hearing from guests when we are bringing guests into this conversation of how do we, again, we're trying to track data, like teaming up with you guests, what is one way we can, here's what we're thinking, here's some of the suggestions we have, what works for you, right? What works best for you? And one thing we toyed with is very similar to recreation. When you walk in, you scan a card and are able to go into your day programs, use their facility, right? Having that discussion with guests here of, hey, what if we utilize this system? A lot of pushback in those spaces because it takes away from the feel that they currently have, and this is the feedback that I've heard, feel that they currently have is being able to walk in, go to Meals on Wheels, billiard room. Yes, they check in for some of their programs. Like if they are doing a fitness program, they have to check in and scan in for that. Or they're dropping programs where they're going to check in those classrooms specifically. They like that check-in system versus going in and scanning, having a card, a membership, and allowing them to scan in, but then us to be able to collect that kind of information, because that does help us out. And a lot of pushback around that because it creates more of that, what was the word? Like a corporate feel, like if you're going into a Lifetime Fitness or a, what is the fitness place here in town? Where you have to, Planet Fitness, where you have to scan in and then go use the facilities. They like the feeling it currently has. And so we also
restricted or something, or
it's just the individual feeling it has. It's like we have to now check in to feel welcome here versus
Big
walking
Brother
in and
is
being
watching or something.
Yeah, and so there was that's the information I collected and gathered from those conversations, as well as the legwork it would have to. Okay, so say we do move forward to a pass system. What does that look like for our staff and our guests? If they are coming to check in for a fitness class, but now we need them to register for a pass, the timeline for that, how quick can we collect their information, get them a pass, and get them to their class, all of those things. And so the conversation kind of died a little bit because of the feedback I was really hearing from the guests is we don't want that. We want to be able to come in and access our amenity. There's things that we do need to consider, right? And the reason why I'm bringing it up is around, obvious one for me is around safety. Who's in our building? How do we track that? Safety and those data pieces, right? So it does a lot for us, and we do have, we'll call them memberships because that's what they called it, right? A membership to come in to utilize the facility. So something that when I think we're ready to have that conversation with our guests again, and maybe our board, friends collectively can be a part of that process as well, is to be a voice in that discussion and loop in our guests as well and staff to kind of say, we are examining collectively as a department how to best collect data, and I think this fits into that conversation as well.
And
Would it help if the friends and the board together made a joint recommendation? Was it matter?
I think being a part of that process, and maybe it could be more of a, right now what I mean by that is that right now we have an opportunity to educate and teach our guests about the new registration software that we will be using, right? The e-lottery system. And so we have classes set up to explain that process, how to register, the benefits of it. And maybe if we take an approach collectively with our boards to host those same type of sessions of almost, host those sessions to explain this is the direction we want to go for data, for safety, and almost an informative session.
That's not unreasonable.
Right.
I think the issue to look at too, in the June 2024 update to Aging Well, the last question they ask is, and they asked this in Boulder, Erie, Lafayette, or Boulder County, how many people have ever used a senior center? 28% of the people answered said yes, which means 72% of the seniors asked do not use a senior center. And we have one of the best records. The only person better than us is Erie or Lafayette, no, Louisville. 59% said, we have used it. So like, my concern is that we're not reaching out to a broader part of our community and that supports getting a larger facility and what have you. But if we get 88,000 people, it sounds like it's the same 3,000 or 4,000 people coming through. How do we get out to the rest of our community? Transacting with a membership card like that would seem to
Yes,
give us
exactly.
a boost towards being able to do that.
Right.
And I think one thing that can be explained to members too, I think there's always a pushback, especially with older people. They tend to want to keep things a little private, a little simpler. They don't want this technology stuff. They're not really open to ideas like that. But I think one point that may be able to really make them understand, or they would understand, would be the fact that we would have numbers to go to the city with.
Right.
And we would have backup when we ask and we make requests for funding. We would be able to say, this is how many people we serve. Right now, we can't do that with a good number that we are comfortable with, or that we think is actually portrays how many individuals come through here. So I think if we could do that, and if they understand that's really what we're looking for. We're not looking to invade anybody's privacy or anything like that, or it's not gonna be used for any kind of invasive, like just a privacy type of thing. It's more that if we have data, we have something to go by.
Yeah.
And we have information that we can say, okay, now we can tell you how many, with a reasonable amount of, certainty. These are the amount of numbers, or these are the amount of individuals who come into the.
Excellent point. I like the way you think.
And I just think it's important, because I see people talking like that, and I'll say to them, don't worry about it, it's not that big a deal. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Administrators like Christina, Harold, the city council, they like numbers.
Yeah.
Because they don't have this personal contact, all they got is
Put
numbers.
Ronnie on that list too.
Yeah. Eric, you wanted to say something?
I have a question for Ryan.
Yes.
How are these figures broken out against being open in the evenings and open on Saturday morning?
And so, and I do have that, I was gonna provide an update. So right now, we started low programs. So not programming heavy until we know that the word is definitely out there for our guests. So we've done a few different programs on Saturdays and evenings. A lot of new programs, but a lot of it is an opportunity for those programs during the day that are really successful to have a second opportunity at night, just to gain that interest and start bringing people in the building. And so right now, again, it's only been this month. It has been slow. It has been slow. Participation has been slow for those evening programs, for the Saturday programs, but I anticipated it being slow, just like anything new, right? We're just introducing it. Once it catches on, and this was really only published in this new go, but once people are starting to see that there's more opportunities available each season, and with different interests, I do anticipate it going
We had
up.
3 surveys that said that they wanted more
Right.
availability.
Right. And so, and again, we are competing with ourselves for space right now, and it gives us an opportunity to provide more options. And once that knowledge is there, we're pulling them in with that interest of, you wanted these additional programs that we couldn't offer because we're fighting for space. Now you have those opportunities, and it's just going to take a little bit of time. And not only that, and I think it will probably be slower. It'll gain traction, but I do anticipate it being slow for at least 1 year. And we have to go through each season, each cycle, for it to really, everybody to see each season
How it
before it
impacts.
starts really
Right.
catching up. Yeah.
And I'm also thinking, at first I thought, well, maybe as it gets colder, people will be more apt to come inside instead of being outside. But that may not be the case with seniors.
Right.
It may be more the case that they don't want to come outside at night when it's darker and it's
Right.
colder and all that. So we may not really see anything until spring weather, when things start warming up again and going right back into summer.
Exactly. And so I think that's why we have to go to a full cycle to really
Right.
evaluate each season
Right.
and each situation, that allows us to assess, okay, well, we notice those colder months are a little bit slower. Do we need to just focus more on more programming on the spring and summer side? and not as much as the colder months, and adjusting hours if we have to at that point, right? But no, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
I just have a couple of questions or a couple of suggestions. When you decide again to go with the scan situation, I think safety is critical to bring up to them because we just went through Helene and you've got all those people that they're trying to find. Now, we're not gonna have, the water here, probably, hopefully, but a tornado. But if they get on an airplane, they have to show something to get on the airplane to count that there's somebody there. If they go to the grocery store, if they want the discounts at the grocery store, they have to click something on that. I mean, it's not like they're not used to it, but I think safety is critical for them to know that, hey, if you're in our building when a tornado hits, we need to know that.
Yeah, and it's our discussion because here's what led to that conversation, right? This adjustment we try to make around safety specifically was to close off that east store.
Right?
Right.
Didn't like that at all.
Right, and we heard it. We heard it from every outlet, right?
Yeah.
City council. They let me have it on the phone or in person, any opportunity to share that frustration. And again, it was around 100% around safety, right? And so with that, if we're focusing on safety and shutting off that east door, we have everybody coming in through the front now. Now that's to raise that conversation around the passes, the membership, the guest passes, to scan in and us to be able to monitor and track who's coming in. And that was a lot of change for everybody at the same time, so we focused on that door specifically. And that's even focusing on safety, that was our message 100%, right? And it was not well received for our guests. So we really have to be intentional on what this looks like. And if we did move towards that guest pass, then we would have to close off that east door again, because if everyone's checking in the front, we don't have anybody in that back door to scan people in or out for the day.
Now, Ronnie, when you were using that, when we requested that, at that point, you didn't have night meetings, or evening classes, etc. I have a big concern about that east door being open at night. I think after a certain time,
it is time.
we should try looking at just coming in the front door.
So we did have it. That was where we met halfway. Was the door closes at 5 o'clock, and it is time blocked. And so there's a sign on that door that says this door is only open Monday through Friday, not even on Saturday. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. After that, evenings or Saturday, you have to come in through the front door.
Great.
Yeah.
I understand. I think anybody would understand.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want darkness around the building and people walking in and out. I just don't want it.
Right. And unfortunately, we just see it on the news every day, and anything can happen anytime. And so that was really the focus. We brought in different departments around the city. We brought in PD, risk management, a lot of discussions, time and energy on that decision. And there was quite a little pushback. It did not. And they made sure I knew that.
So the other question I had was, you've listed your trips, and now that you're going to Lashley with a lot of them, are the majority of them going out of Lashley? Are you finding that to be really useful?
It has, and we're talking about pushback, right? There was a lot of frustration around that decision.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at, again, our programs during the day, we're full. Our parking lots are full. We have to look at those other options to provide more flexibility for guests who are coming in the building for programs on site. And not only that, those who are attending those off-site trips, give them an opportunity to be closer to the building for parking. So that was a great decision there, and I will stand by that 100%. And now it's finally caught on those benefits. And there are some times that we do depart out of here because recreation or CYF, Children Youth and Family, may have an evening program, or depending on the time of day, may have a program going on at Lashley, because remember, it's a shared space. And so, we do advertise and let it know well in advance that this specific trip will depart from the senior center. So that communication's there. Am I seeing benefits? That was the question. Am I seeing benefits of that decision? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And so Yeah, absolutely.
I think it just took people getting used to it, you know, we old people, we don't take change very well.
Yeah.
We like everything to be exactly the way that we always had it.
I think that's the exact case, and I'm all
Yeah.
for Lashley. I think it works
Yeah, I
very
think the
well.
convenience of it is,
Yeah.
you just can't dismiss, you know,
Yeah.
it's just so much better to have it there.
And it alleviates the space in our parking lot for
Right.
those
Oh, yeah.
attending programs on site.
Sometimes you gotta tell seniors that's the way it's gonna be.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Really, I'm serious.
And that's when they get it.
And then they look and go, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just want to share those numbers with you. Those are fun numbers. And, you know, we did something, we're very innovative in our programs. We did a speed dating program here.
Did you participate?
I did not. We had 26 total. It was really well attended and received. 26 total participants, and 91% had at least one match coming out of the event. So,
How many weddings?
How many men?
what was it? It was,
Seven.
seven.
Seven
There
men.
was 21.
Yeah.
So we can anticipate 7 weddings coming in?
That's what we said. Is if anything
like
does
we
come
have
of it,
multiple
we're taking
dating.
pictures, and that's going to go on our Go catalog.
There you
All
go.
right.
Isn't that
Amy wants to
funny?
take full
That's
credit
a great
about it.
idea.
Yeah.
That's just an interesting thing to spark,
Right.
you know,
Mhm.
activity and just fun.
And that's our team creating those
that's a good
fun
idea.
new ideas things that we
How
have not
many
done yet.
people came?
26 total.
I was interested in coming, but I have a lot of things to do.
It was fun.
We'll get you in the
It was a lot
next
of fun.
time.
So we're gonna be looking at doing another one. I believe she said in the spring.
I think
Is
that's
that
fine.
sound about right? I think it's the spring.
Wow.
So they're
And it's
gonna try to
right,
do
it's here, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, we need to work on
It
getting
is.
more men.
It's safe, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have too many women, not enough
Yeah.
men, right?
Yeah. So we need to get that word out there too.
Yeah.
Val is starting a Spanish cell phone tutoring drop-in pilot program. So kind of something that SETC does, but geared towards our Spanish speakers to provide that same service, that same tech support. And I mean, these phones are hard to navigate and provide that support so everyone can access and navigate their phone. And I'm almost accidentally calling 911. I want to hit the emergency number. That would have been bad.
Has that started already?
So that is something that we're advertising this Go cycle for next
Great.
season.
That's great.
Our e-lottery info sessions, we were talking about that, about the benefits of the e-lottery system to have guests register online or in person. There's that option, but this opportunity for our guests to come in and learn more about it. And really, I know I've talked to this board about it. What it really does is creates more flexibility and options for registration, one, but two, allows our trips, registration for trips to be more equitable. You know, we got somebody who, when we do our traditional lottery system, you got that person who gets the number one ticket, right, gets their number called first. They get to go in and hit all the big trips right away. And it's with them, and if they decide to bring a guest, that's 2 people on a 13-passenger van. Our vans hold only 13 people at a time. That's if it's a one van, right? And if it's 26 total seats, we already have 2 people taking, the 2 of those seats on our major trips. So what this does is if I register for this example 3 different trips, we'll say the big trips, right? The ones that everybody's circled on in their Go catalog. Each one of those trips has its own lottery. So instead of me getting my number called first and I'm going on all 3 trips, each one of those trips has its own lottery. So if I was the very first person to register during, as soon as registration opened, or the very last person to register when registration closed, I still have an equal chance, if I'm that last person, I have an equal chance as the first person that registered.
Yeah, that's
on
very
day one.
fair.
That's
Okay.
nice, I
Right.
like that.
And
Yeah.
so, a lot of questions individuals have of, well, how does the system recognize if I, my plus one basically? And they have to be registered in your household online. So if I plan on taking Bianca, I have to make sure she is registered in my household. And Bianca has to make sure I'm registered in her household, I'm sorry. So it shows that we are both each other's plus one. So if I say Bianca's my guest and my plus one, and Bianca says Chuck is her plus one, then it will only register one person at a time. So if it was my name pulled, It'll only register me because Bianca's not saying she's my +1. I'm saying she's, yeah. So everyone's, it'll recognize that, and it'll still include everybody's +1. But what I like and what it does is makes it more convenient, or I'm sorry, more equitable for each person, for each individual trip. And not only that, instead of having to be here from a certain time frame on a specific day, right? If I had a doctor's appointment, I had a vacation plan, an emergency happened, I definitely cannot make that one day during that time block. And so what this does is, if those things come about, you can still you can jump online and register, or fill out the physical form like we've done in the past and just turn it into the front office, front desk, and we will register them for those, put their name on the lottery for those specific trips. So there's multiple options to register, and again, it makes it more equitable for everybody. Yes.
I'm just getting a little technical here, but I'm curious. Say I go in and I register for 3 trips, but I only have a +1 for one of them. Can I do that?
Yes, and my
So
understanding
I
is you'll,
enter
Right.
separately for each trip?
right. So
Okay.
you'll be able to identify this one I would want my +1, and this one I'm just registering myself. So,
And when are the training sessions? for
and
this?
so the first one is coming up October 30th here at the Senior Center.
Are they listed in the Go?
It is. And I believe that's is it in the back of the Go? Toward the back on the bottom of one of the sheets.
Okay.
So first session is October 30th from 1 to 2 p.m. Yeah, we got a lot of positive feedback, and people, a lot of guests are excited for that. Yes, sir.
And you know what? Go ahead, I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn.
Okay.
I'm just thinking that this may introduce people to using the system, so that if you do go with having scans to come into the building,
Right.
this may be an introduction for them, make them feel a little more comfortable with using things. You know, that they're seeing the advancement of technology at the senior center.
Mhm.
And so when when you were to introduce, should you do it, about using a scan, then maybe they'd be more open to it.
Right. Oh, yeah. You're right. It does support that conversation.
Ronnie, my question is, I can see these domestic and international trips, being substantial cost. Are scholarships actually offered for those kind of programs?
Not for extended travel. It's for the day programs, day trips, and fitness.
Because I'm just looking at, obviously, people of low income would probably not qualify for a lot of these.
Right.
International stuff.
And depending on location and cost, right? It is not for everyone.
It's
for
just-
everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one more question, has nothing to do with that, but what is the wait time at this point? I mean, have we seen less time waiting for receiving resource specialists? Because I know those people are usually all the time.
We're still in that 4 to 6, I would say 4 to 6 week time frame.
4 to 6 weeks?
Closer to that 4 week, but we are still able to have built-in spaces for emergency appointments. So we do have that built in, that if there are emergencies, time-sensitive issues or needs, then we are able to still see them sooner rather than later. So,
Great.
but looking big picture, right? We're booked out pretty far. So I'll say comfortably that 4 to 6, but closer to that 4, if that makes sense.
So we don't see any additional resource specialists coming in real soon then?
No, I did, right, I did put that in my budget request, and those were denied, right? We still have our 3 needs. One of them is, that one's always gonna be there, as the rate continues to grow. And, we have community members aging into that 55 or older demographic. That need's always gonna be there. So I'm gonna continue to keep asking for, asking for that. That's always gonna be my #1 request, is staffing for supportive services specifically.
Did you ask for additional staff?
I asked for 2 supportive services staff members.
But it wasn't forwarded from Harold's office, or it will not be forwarded from Harold?
Not at this time. Not this year, I should say. Again, that's already my #1 budget request for 2026.
When does that process start?
Here soon, yeah, it's here this morning. Everything's happening so fast.
Yeah.
Everything's on those cycles. But yeah, that's gonna happen here very quickly. So, that's what I have right now.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Any questions of Ronnie? All right, city council liaison. Anybody heard about Marcia Martin? Anything?
I'm actually in contact with her. I heard from her last week, but it wasn't anything about when she's gonna be back.
Oh, okay.
So I'll try again.
Do you know if she'll be continuing after the first of the year?
I don't know.
You don't know, okay. Okay. Area agency on aging, I guess we talked about that. Sustainability, there was no meeting this last time, this last month, so there's nothing to report. Future agenda items we talked about. Friends, I want to talk about that just a little bit. You want to talk about the van at all? Ronnie? You want to talk about the van at all? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I asked Ronnie and the staff for statistics on, particularly on the usage of the vans that they have today, the 2. And it came to my attention in kind of in a roundabout way. Randy and I had a discussion with a lady who voiced her frustration at not being able to get on trips because of not enough seats. So what I've asked the Finance Committee for the Friends is to put this on their agenda meeting, which is coming up sometime in the next few weeks. And I said it's one of those things where there's an urgent need. It's one of those things where we also had to understand how, if the Friends buy a van, how does it impact him and the city? Well, you just don't hand him a van and say, yippee, it's all over.
Yeah.
There's a thing of insurance, the maintenance, and the depreciation of that van over time to allow for its replacement. All of those things have to be calculated into that. So there's going to be some discussion about where the Friends may be able to help with that, or how it could be expedited through the city. It's a little bit of an involved process that frankly I knew nothing about. So it was a bit of a surprise to me as well as others. So we have that on the discussion for the Finance Committee to bring back a recommendation to the board.
What size van are you looking for? What's your seat?
It would be the same as what they have
A
today
13?
because
Yeah, 13 passengers.
Does that require
They're
CDL?
accessible. No,
And
that's why we use those ones.
If this is approved, I should say recommended, what's the total money involved here for a van?
Yeah, we kind of did some rough estimate. We did some research, and roughly anywhere between, I think we said, was $80,000 to $100,000
Okay,
for a new vehicle.
all right.
I looked online myself and I thought they were a little higher than that, but then I didn't know exactly what his configuration was for the existing ones. So I might have been looking at the wrong kind of a model.
Just check my numbers.
Ronnie made a presentation at the last Friends meeting, and the cost, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the cost of chartering, renting vans,
Yeah.
what was it, a small van and a larger van, and versus the cost of purchasing one. And as I recall, it was much cheaper over time to just simply buy a van. So my question to the board, since I'm liaison to the board, do we want to lend our support to the request that Ronnie has for a new van. And like you just said, about $100,000. Now, I don't know how much influence we have, but I could speak to it at our next meeting and say that the board does support the purchase of a van, for all the reasons that we've been talking about today. And so what's your feeling on that?
Now, is the van the only issue, or are we gonna be looking at an increase of a driver and things like that?
I think it really would be kind of a package deal, as I understand it. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Christina is looking into with the purchasing people, I suppose, as far as risk, liability, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, like you said, all of those issues. And I imagine they'll fold it into whatever the city policy is on that. And so then Christine will report that back to the Friends group, and then it'll be part of their decision. But it's a package deal.
Okay.
So what's your feeling?
Well,
Yes, Sam?
I have,
85 to 100.
Ronnie and I did a coffee with leadership meeting, and Ronnie mentioned at that meeting that the big ones that you rent have been breaking down. So I think that's totally out of the question. I'm all for the Friends.
Okay.
Would you use it? I mean, I'm sure you
Oh,
would
yeah.
use it because you
Yeah.
have a waiting list, right?
Yeah.
And so, the data that Chuck was, requested, we were able to put that information in there as well. That, here's a quick snapshot, is that, my number, sorry. I'll get it for you. Quick snapshot, so example for this year specifically, we had, for winter, 622 participants enrolled, and 182 were left on the wait list, and that's just, again, that's for transportation, we can't take everybody, right? Spring, 540 participated, 42 were left on the wait list. Summer, 720 participated, 200 were left on the wait list. And this season for fall. And this is the most participants we've had in the last 3 years. So it's not lack of programs. 757 participants enrolled, 757 participants enrolled for trips. And as a result, 374 were left on the wait list.
I think you need a Greyhound bus or something.
Right?
There you go.
So we stay away from the buses too, because then we
The
have to have a
CDL.
CDL, and that's harder to find drivers who can operate a CDL.
Yeah.
So we're looking at
Those
operating,
big bus limos that they have.
yeah, so we're operating the mini fleet system of the 30
John?
passengers.
Well, what's the impact if you get the bus on those people that are on the wait list now? What kind of impact would that reduce that number? Can you tell?
I did have those numbers, and I think that's on my notes for the board, the Friends board packet for that conversation. But let me see. Yeah, I have them written down. But I mean, for each trip specifically, that's an additional 13 people we can take. And I did the math on that one, and for the Friends board to show that if we did have an additional vehicle, if possibly even 2 vehicles, the impact it can have, 2 versus 1 versus none. Right.
So they're gonna be ADA accessible, because if they are, that takes out seats.
Right. That's why we have the specific vehicle. ADA accessible ability, and as well as a wheelchair lift.
One wheelchair.
Yeah.
One of the things that Brandy brought to my attention is there was 4 trips that were very popular. And even at the end of those 4 trips, there were still 41 people left on the waiting list. And one of the things that struck me is here we offer scholarships to people to be able to afford to take these local trips, and they could be sitting on the waiting list.
Yeah.
And that's contradictory in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. So, to me, if it was up to me alone, you'd have 2 buses tomorrow.
Almost sounds like that's the way we wanna
Yeah.
go.
But I'm not,
That's true.
not the dictator.
Yeah.
Well, so I gather you support this. Yes.
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like a motion that I can take, to the Friends group and saying that, well, however the motion reads, but that basically we support the purchase of a new van.
Well,
I'll make that motion.
I'm sorry, did you make you made a motion? Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, there's a second. Okay, discussion.
I just have a question. Would it benefit you to have 2 vans instead of just one? And would friends be able to afford 2 vans instead of just one? Because when you listed those numbers of how many people were on the waiting list, it's a question.
Yes, is the answer. And not to put pressure.
Yes,
Um,
the answer is yes.
Yes.
yeah.
So could we say we would like to see them purchase 2 vans, but one for sure? You know, I really, based on the numbers, I think we
Yeah,
need
this-
2 vans.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I'm just wondering what's politically feasible, you know? If you think that would,
Well, behind the scenes, I've been working on it, but I can't tell you whether or not I've won everybody over or not.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, how about if we just push for as much as we can get?
well,
2 is definitely.
it never hurts to ask for 2.
Sure,
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
What 2 new vehicles would do is give us 5 total and allow us to do a large trip, multiple large trips same day. Because again, right now we're competing with ourselves, that we have to off schedule trips so that way vehicles can be available. That would allow us to do multiple trips the same day. And for sure, increase our hikes, which is very popular, but right now we only have 1 bus available for hikes because we have the other 2 going on trips, so that would allow us to increase. We have a wait list for hikes.
That would be a very useful, concrete, tangible
That would,
contribution.
that would ensure that those scholarships are being
That you have the
utilized.
scholarships, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, not only that, but Friends has always struggled a little bit with making our mission known, especially to our donors. Well, if you had 1 or 2 new buses, they got a plaque right up front that says Friends are the ones that donated.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah,
It
Gives
needs
you
to be on the
that
side.
long-term visibility to the fact
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we're making a significant contribution.
Yeah.
put your
Right.
picture on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the library has their big sale, and you know that the Friends of the Library is gonna do this. If you put that out there, you know, like even on the side that says Friends of the Senior Center
Yeah.
donate, or purchase or what, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but-
I'd say we go with 2.
Okay,
I think
All right.
so too.
Hold on.
I say we got a motion, right?
Right.
Who made the you made the motion, and you seconded the
I did.
motion. Any further okay, do we need to discuss that any further? We support the idea of supporting up to 2 vans.
Right.
Okay, which would probably be on the order of a couple
From
$100,000. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you,
How
Chuck.
did
Still
we?
built 2 hours.
Yeah. We went through all that. There's one other thing I want to talk about, and that is strategic planning. Again, I'd like the blessing of the board under Friends, and that is that that they are talking strategic planning. Chuck and I talked about a little bit about this before the meeting. There's a strategic planning group. I think John's on it, Ruth is on
Karen
Who's-
Roney.
Huh?
Karen Roney.
it. Yeah,
Michelle.
Karen, is on it. Okay. And the idea, as I understood it, was to have multiple sources of impact. The board, Friends, and the staff all participate in this planning process. Like, was it 3 years or 5 years? I don't remember offhand. I think it was 3 years, 3-year plan. And that hasn't really taken off yet. And I think part of it is they're just getting used to the idea. They're just starting to talk about it. Is that fair, you think, John?
Yeah, Karen and I met with Ronnie to begin that process and try and get confirmation of what he feels and staff feels is necessary to move forward. So it has begun.
Okay.
And I think there'll be more conversations about some things that we can all do together to move that community awareness and then forward.
Okay, and I guess my question to the board is, do you want me to represent the board as supporting this type of effort?
Yeah.
A 3-year plan, and I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if anybody knows exactly what the goals are at this point. But the idea is to put it into play.
We're making a good plan to plan.
Okay.
That is the plan.
We're planning to plan.
Yeah, just like, my personal planning, I have an action plan, a pre-action plan, then a planning stage. That's kind of where we're at in all of this.
We have notes.
I have a concept of a plan. Okay, so anyway, do I have the support of the group to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
More that this group can do with the Friends to begin to communicate. Since we
I
share
guess
the
it
same-
was, what I'm talking about is up to me to take the initiative to contact the chair of the Friends group or the chair of that committee and say, we'd like to be part of this process.
Makes sense.
And then I bring that back and forth to this group.
Right,
Okay.
that's good to me.
That's,
We
it's
need a
just,
motion?
it's kind of rough, but that's the idea. Yes, please make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to have David as our representative to the strategic planning committees, the strategic planning committee of the Friends.
I wouldn't actually be part of that committee, but
Be the liaison?
I'm the liaison, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a second to the motion.
Second.
Okay, Eric seconds it. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, any further business? We got 3 minutes left.
How about the support services you listed on the agenda?
I didn't miss it, I just ignored it.
No, I meant listed on the agenda.
You mean under Ronnie's report?
No, support services is right under the e-lottery info sessions.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom of the agenda.
I just let, Ronnie didn't
That's
say anything,
Ronnie's.
so I just let it go.
That's Ronnie's report.
And it's
Well, it
Ronnie's
was just kind of
report.
some share outs, just trends that we've noticed. So no real knowledge as to why, it's just the trends
Okay.
we noticed.
We'll be discussing a lot of that stuff, I think, with the representative from the housing office.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, any other business? We have 2 minutes, yes.
No, I was just gonna make make a motion to adjourn, but if
Okay,
anybody else
a motion
wants
to
to talk
adjourn.
first. then-
Okay, is there a second to adjourn?
I thought I should comment, this will be the last meeting I can attend. I really commend this group. You really opened my eyes as to how much you're able to accomplish and take to the city council. I have family and personal health problems to take care of, so I have to withdraw. I really commend you on the work that you've done. Very impressive.
Well, we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for all your time and effort and all your work.
And I have to say, you're the kind of person I like to work with. No, really, I'm serious. Like I said, silos just bug the hell out of me. And you're not a silo person, you're the kind of person that reaches out and tries to make contact and coordinate and talk to other groups. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And as a new person on the Friends Board, I've been really impressed by Chuck's ability to navigate a lot of changes that have occurred in the last couple of years. And his leadership and his years of being involved, he'll be missed by the board, Friends Board.
Good work.
It saddens me to leave.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome to come by and say hi anytime.
Yeah.
Okay. I may
Be
take,
careful.
just to see what's going on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
just pop in to give an update.
Be careful, we'll stick you on the board. All right, say we got a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
There's a second. Very
Eric seconds it. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned.